Good. Cool. Fantastic. Great. Okay, Kim. Um, Another barrier people have to eating plant-based is they say that it takes too much time. What are some tips for saving time so people don't have to live in their kitchen?
Yeah, so it is definitely a learning curve if you aren't used to cooking, if you're used to everything coming out of a freezer and coming, going through drive-throughs and things like that. And that was kind of me. I used to call myself the microwave meal mom because everything was frozen, prepackaged. I could barely boil water. I didn't cook. And so when I was first starting out, that was a big barrier for me. It was like, A, how I'm going to do this, and B, like how I'm going to find the time to do this. And so the biggest thing is batch prepping ahead of time. It's like I mentioned, the overnight oats that we're all eating. Well, I have mason jars that I line up and I do all our breakfasts at one time, and they're in the fridge, grab and go. Um, I'd make really big pots of soup. I prep all of our fruits and veggies for the week. I make my kids vegan mac and cheese for their lunches. I do everything I can efficiently. So it's really about being efficient with your time and prepping ahead as many things as you can for the week. Whether it's some people do full meals, or you can at least just do some staples like, roast some potatoes, bake some sweet potatoes, make some brown rice in your Instant Pot. Making if a lot of people have sweet tooth. So I always have some kind of sweet treat or dessert or snack ready and made for the week. Like in my fridge right now, you can find some sweet potato brownies and some, I think I have chocolate peanut butter date balls. So like little treats that my kids can, I can put them in their lunches or they can snack on. But I do that on usually Sunday, sometime on the weekend, but usually Sunday afternoon. And few hours, get my husband to help, get my kids to help. And we've got a ton of things made for the week. And so it's not every day, oh my God, what am I gonna make? What am I gonna cook? I don't have any time. I'm too tired. Let's just go through the drive-through. No, it's like you do have to plan ahead. So it's a little bit of learning curve if you're not used to doing that, but if you plan ahead and it's really about making the healthy choice the easy choice. I think I heard Rip say that on Friday, and I say that all the time as well. Make the healthy choice the easy choice. Make it ready to go so that it's easy. It's in sight. All the healthy things are around. So you're going to want to grab those things instead of like, oh, I'm so tired. Let's just go through drive-through. So there's definitely things that you have to learn how to do, but I don't spend my life in the kitchen all day long. I've got other things to do. I've got kids, we're going and doing stuff all the time. So it's really about, being efficient with your time.
Thank you. Steve, just to follow up on the last question, just so we're clear, you're saying you're recommending not to eat animal products. You're also recommending that we minimize saturated fat, even in plant foods. So that would mean, just to be clear, are you saying all coconut products like coconut yogurt, coconut ice cream? And what about macadamia nuts, Brazil nuts, cashews, which are all high in saturated fat? What are you saying about those, just so we're clear?
Well, yeah, for coconut products, coconut oil is the heaviest with 82 to 94% saturated and nothing of value. Any yogurts or ice creams made with coconut oil, forget it. They have too much saturated fat, not enough good in them. For example, we've found some avocado ice cream that's very low in saturated fat, like 1 gram per serving. But it's hard to get 12 grams a day that way. So we just kind of watch it if it's a packaged food. And then as far as unpackaged foods, well, too much peanut butter would be too much. A little's okay. But if you get up to a quarter cup of peanut butter, then you're starting to get a little high in the saturated fats. And chocolate's another one. We eat dark chocolate because that way we eat less chocolate and get the same satisfaction and less saturated fat. So we kind of try to keep that down. And it's it's fun, really. I mean, I've been plant-based for 54 years, Stephen. And when I started, you couldn't buy any junk food that was vegan. You had to make everything yourself, even tofu. They didn't even sell tofu in San Francisco back then.
Just to be perfectly clear, though, cashews, macadamia nuts, and Brazil nuts, they're the highest 3 nuts in saturated fat. Are they still low enough that they're part of the diet, or are you saying you recommend?
Okay, well, let's look at an example. Cashews have vitamin E and a little bit of essential fatty acids. Macadamia nuts, just like coconut oil, has no vitamin E and no essential fatty acids. Macadamia nuts are purely for entertainment. They don't have any nutritional value except calories. They're fun, they're good. We have a couple trees, but we don't eat a lot of those because they're pretty worthless. Cashews, you can eat a few. The idea is just calculate it up, make sure you don't get over your limit of saturated fat. And Brazil nuts, well, they have another problem. They tend to absorb radioactive particles from the soil. So they've fallen out of favor, and now people are eating, no more than 1 a day for sure. Plus, they're very high in selenium, to the point where if you eat more than 1 a day, you're going over your upper limit on selenium. Now, selenium is a valuable mineral, absolutely essential for glutathione peroxidase, which neutralizes oxidation in the body. It's an antioxidant. So it's good to have the right amount, but not too much. But cashews are less in saturated fat and not too scary to me. And, I have no problem eating 5 or 6 cashews with something. However, you're right, if you get into a cashew ice cream, then it can be a little fatty and a little bit too much.
Thank you. Victoria and Kim, there was very recently, an Oprah Winfrey special, and she was talking about obesity, and she was saying it's a disease. And it's a sensitive thing because it's really not a great thing to use this conference to make people feel blamed or shamed. So every time we say it's good not to have ice cream, the goal isn't to make people who eat ice cream feel bad. It's just to give them the facts, and then everyone's on their own journey and will decide what's right for them. But I guess let's ask 2 questions here. So one, I don't know, what do you make of this when Oprah's saying obesity is a disease? Is it an emotional, psychological thing? Or if people just switch to a whole food, plant-based diet, would their bodies naturally lose weight? Do you have any thoughts on any of that, both of you?
Well, I'm happy to jump in on that because I spent the first 33 years of my life battling obesity. And what I see is it is a disease, but it's complicated. And I look at it in 3 ways, A, B, and C. A, I call that American. That's a problem of the food. That's the standard American diet. That's fast food. That's addictive food. For people whose problem stems from that, and they haven't gotten further along the emotional disease road, you give them this diet, you teach them how to cook, you show them what a rutabaga is, and they're going to town. They're great. Then you've got your B people, and I call them baffled because they do know about nutrition. They're usually women, and they read the nutrition websites and whatever, but then maybe the boyfriend does something they don't like, or the boss yells, and they're into the Haagen-Dazs, and they don't know why. And then it's in the emotional realm. And there's a lot of help for people like that, writers like Janine Roth, most of the kind of people, the psychologists that work with people with eating problems, they have a really good understanding of that emotional piece. So you combine that with whole food, plant-based, and a little bit of behavior modification, self-love, self-care, and they're fine. But then we get to this 3rd part, C, and that stands for compulsive. And this is when it's an addiction. And I think of it as like a rubber band. You can stretch the thing and stretch it and stretch it, but once it breaks, there's no going back. And that's when I believe that eating can be like alcoholism. It's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual, and it's physical. And for me, I think that we have to work on all levels when it's at that place. And I'm happy to report that in my life, it's been 40 years a day at a time since I last abused myself with a fork. But I agree with Oprah, it is a disease.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you just said, that and I do think it is a disease, but it is very complicated and multifaceted, and for different people, and especially women and people who come to me, and myself in general as well. Like I know I'm an emotional eater. That is something I've discovered about myself, and part of why I love eating this way is because it does help kind of tamp down those feelings and those cravings, and I can eat until I'm full, so I don't feel that restrictive eating that would cause like the yo-yo, binge, starve yourself binge, and go back and forth. And so for a lot of people, you have the emotional side of it, the stress eating, and it's just everywhere. All the junk food, it's just, you can't escape it. So it's and I think a lot more people are probably food addicts than maybe realize, because it's so hard because it's so accepted. You go, there's just junk food everywhere, and it's in the gas stations, it's everywhere you drive, and it's like an alcoholic being surrounded by bars everywhere. Everyone
Yeah.
offering you a drink, have another drink, would you like a drink? And you can't escape it, and so, but it's acceptable, so you go with it, you think it's okay. And I think that we're living in just the society of excess, and so it's just so multifaceted, and it's just everywhere. And I think that for for myself, eating this way has really helped me, in a lot of ways. But still, even today, if I'm in a certain situation, I can be triggered by just seeing or smelling certain foods from my childhood, and it's like I have to just take a minute and like process that, and stress eating still comes up for me too. And so it's just this constant, progress, not perfection, doing the best you can every day. And so, yeah, I do agree that I think it's a disease, but I think that, it's very complicated, lots of different, root causes for many different people. And it's something, our society has just kind of gotten out of control with just the acceptance of just absolute trash food everywhere.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, it's not just obesity. Just about every disease you can name has a self-induced aspect to it. And so what we can do is help people to recover from these problems. And it's nice because as you recover from one, you recover from the others. As you lose the weight, you lose the diabetes, you lose the heart disease risk, you lose the clouded mind, and because obesity itself increases inflammation in the brain and elsewhere. So it's nice because we can really basically cure the whole circle little at a time, and as much as people are willing to. It's always hard for me, and I'm sure it is for you, that sometimes people don't want to go as far as I know it would be good for them to go as far. So we just need to be patient. And once they get a little positive movement, if somebody loses 5 pounds, they start feeling better about it, and then they can lose another 5, and they just get a bigger smile. And it's the same way with dropping in. Meat is one of the most obesogenic foods there is. It's really high in calories, and people don't realize it, and they don't talk about it. But meat's a big culprit, especially for kids, and childhood obesity is really rampant.
Steve, regarding diabetes and blood sugar problems, you mentioned something about fat. So if you were trying to solve someone's high blood sugar, what are you, and they said they're already eating a whole food plant-based diet,